Veriska. Thank you everyone for joining us today. As Veriska mentioned, my name is Vinh Pham from Software Technical Applications team, and today we are going to cover Local Run Manager version 2, research use only, and this is for introduction for Local Run Manager on and off instrument. So topics we are going to cover today are Local Run Manager overview, sometimes it's shortened as LRM, and we will talk about software functions, supported instruments, available versions on the instrument and off instrument. Next, we will talk about how to access and use Local Run Manager version 2. Especially, we will cover how to set up the run, how to set up the analysis, and how Local Run Manager interacts with instrument control software, how to view analysis results, and finally, we'll talk about how we can use system settings. Let's talk about Local Run Manager overview. Local Run Manager provides integrated software solution for creating the run, monitoring run status, and analyzing the data. General workflow will be, first, we plan the run in Local Run Manager. You can select the analysis module in Local Run Manager, and then we prepare the library and start the run from the control software. You can select the run that you just created in Local Run Manager. Once sequencing complete, Local Run Manager provides the analysis for the run data. This is Windows-based software, so it's compatible with Windows 7 and Windows 10. And Local Run Manager is designed for our benchtop sequencers such as MiSeq, MiSeq, MiSeq DX, NextSeq 500, 550, NextSeq 550DX, iSeq instrument, and Local Run Manager is not designed for high throughput sequencers, for example, HiSeq 2500, HiSeq 3000, 4000, HiSeq X, NextSeq 1000, 2000, or NovaSeq 6000. Local Run Manager is unified framework with modular architecture. So the framework provides the analysis engine, the dashboard, monitoring, and provide tasks such as user management and run analysis creation. On the top of the framework, you can install specific modules, and each module has its own setup, analysis pipeline, and analysis reporting. After the run setup, Local Run Manager communicates with control software so that you can select the planned run from the instrument control software. After the sequencing run completed, the run data are collected from the primary analysis from the real-time analysis software, or it's called RTA. Then the base code files are transferred back to Local Run Manager to perform further analysis. For example, ECL to FASTQ conversion to generate FASTQ file or other analysis pipelines. Compared to MiSeq Reporter, if you are using MiSeq instrument, the benefits of this architecture is allowing for update to specific components without revalidating or reinstalling the entire software suite. So if you are familiar with MiSeq Reporter in MiSeq instrument, you might be aware that if you want to add the new analysis, you will need to update the entire software, or if there is a bug fix that you will need to revalidate the entire software suite. But this is not the case with Local Run Manager. So we just need to update one module, everything else will stay the same. Speaking of MiSeq Reporter, on the MiSeq instrument, with MiSeq Control Software version 3, Local Run Manager version 2 is replacing MiSeq Reporter. So if you upgrade your MiSeq instrument from MiSeq Control Software version 2 to MiSeq Control Software version 3, then Local Run Manager is built in with this control software version. MiSeq Reporter is still supported and available off instrument. And this is optional upgrade, so instrument can be downgraded from Control Software version 3 back to MiSeq Control Software version 2 with MiSeq Reporter. Okay, so there are currently several Local Run Manager versions in different instruments, and specifically for MiSeq instrument, if you are using MiSeq Control Software version 1, then Local Run Manager version 1.3 is available. If you have MiSeq control software version 2, then we will have Local Run Manager version 2. For the MiSeq instrument, if you are using MiSeq control software version 3, then Local Run Manager version 2 is available. And excitingly, we have the new MiSeq control software version 4, and Local Run Manager version 3 will be available. And we're gonna cover, we're going to have a new webinar about MiSeq control software version 4 with Local Run Manager version 3 in February. For the MiSeq instrument, we're gonna have Local Run Manager version 2, and also Local Run Manager version 2 is available for the NextSeq instrument. For the MiSeq DX and NextSeq DX, we have a different DX version, and we are not going to cover today. We have Local Run Manager off instrument version as well. So this is version 2, and you can use to analyze the data from MiSeq, MiSeq, NextSeq 500, 550, and iSeq data. So if you are using MiSeq control software version 2 on the MiSeq instrument, note that the AmpliSeq workflow, for example, DNA amplicon or RNA amplicon, are not available in MiSeq Reporter. So if you want to analyze this data, you can use Local Run Manager off instrument version, and this can be used to analyze AmpliSeq for Illumina data. The Local Run Manager can be used for comparing the results for MiSeq Reporter for validation as well. So let's go through detailed versions of Local Run Manager with different modules listed here in different instruments, because you will find a few different versions on our support website. So Local Run Manager version 1.3 is the first one released on the MiSeq version 1 control software. And you can see the list of the available modules here. MiSeq DX and NextSeq DX has different versions. And for the DX module, you have germline variant, somatic variant. For the off-instrument version, we have Local Run Manager version 2, and also on MiSeq control software version 3, iSeq instrument, MiSeq control software version 2, and the NextSeq instrument. Some important notes that I want to mention here. The modules are specific to each framework. So you cannot install 1.3 modules in framework version 2, or you cannot install the DX modules in the IO framework. And you cannot install Local Run Manager version 1.3 and version 2 on the same computer. So just something that we need to keep in mind. All right, now how to access Local Run Manager. Similar concept to MiSeq Reporter, Local Run Manager uses the interface or web browser, and is optimized for Chrome or Chromium. It can also work on Firefox, but it does not work properly on Internet Explorer, so just keep it in mind. To connect directly on the instrument or on local PC, you can just go to localhost. Local Run Manager use standard HTTP, so you don't need to use separate port number like MiSeq Reporter. If you have the instrument connected to the same network, for example, the computer has the same network with the instrument, you can also remotely connect to Local Run Manager by using the IP address or computer name. So you can connect to Local Run Manager without installing Local Run Manager in your computer. Here is how Local Run Manager main interface looks like. Depends on the version that you install, the user interface might look slightly different. As you can see here on the top, you can see the system name. And in the bottom of the interface here, we can see install Local Run Manager version. There is a status bar that's showing the numbers of the run performed. There is also the run creation or create run button here, so that you can use to create the run. Also, there is a run list, so that it will list all the runs that perform using Local Run Manager. And finally, you can see the run actions bottom here, and you can do things like edit or import the run that we can talk about it later. Before getting into how to create the run and analyze the data using Local Run Manager, I want to talk about Local Run Manager user management, since it can affect everything that we do in Local Run Manager. So user management allows an administrator to define individual user permissions or track the user activities. This is an option for Local Run Manager version 2, so you can turn it on or turn it off. However, this option is always turned on in Local Run Manager version 1.3 or Local Run Manager DX version, which means that you will need to log in as admin with credentials. There are two user roles, admin and user, with different permissions as shown here. So if you have user management turned on, you can create the new users. So with different users with different login credentials, which can track in Audit Trails. You can also set either admin or user role, and you can set temporary password. You can also edit the current users. So you can delete the users, reset user password, unlock user password, or you can set and edit the roles and permissions. So Local Run Manager is turned off by default in version 2. So that means it will automatically log in with the admin account when you connected Local Run Manager to the web interface. You can toggle this option to turn on or turn off user management by going to the Tools and select User Management. So if you have user management turned on and turned off, this will affect to the module installation and the run setup. For the module installation, if you have user management turned off, then the admin login is not required. Also, this applies to setting up the runs in the instrument control software. If you have Local Run Manager with the user management turned on, then the user login is required as well. So this is some important thing to keep in mind, especially for your particular usage environment. Now, let's talk about setting up the run and analyzing the data. How to create the run in Local Run Manager. So general workflow will be you log in into Local Run Manager, you select Create Run option, and then enter the run details and settings. You add the sample information, and then you can save the run, and the run should be ready for sequencing. When you are in the run dashboard, there is an option to create the run. You can only see the available module that I installed. If there is no available module, there is an orange banner at the top of the screen warning that you need to download the module. And once installed, you can see the list in the Create Run and select the analysis that you want to use for your run and continue with setting up your run. Again, only install module will appear in the drop-down menu here. Once you click on that Create Run option, now you will have the option to enter the run details and settings. There is an option to import the sample sheet. So information in the sample sheet will be imported for your run and sample information. A couple of notes here that I want to mention. So if you are using Illumina Experiment Manager to generate the sample sheet, you can also use that sample sheet to import in Local Run Manager, or you can also create the sample sheet in Local Run Manager. However, there is one note here that is really important, and I have seen it a few times. If you are using IEM or Illumina Experiment Manager to create the sample sheet, always select the MiSeq as the instrument type. The reason is that Local Run Manager will reverse complement I5 for the NextSeq, MiSeq, and ISeq instrument. So if your sample sheet is created by IEM, where I5 is already reverse complemented, and now it will be reverse complemented twice by local run manager. So that caused the demultiplexing failure. Let's take a quick look at the sample sheet import example. So I'm gonna create the run, select generate FASTA queue, and I'm gonna select import sample sheet option. So let's select the sample sheet that we want to use. Everything will be populated here. You can see library prep kit, run information. If you scroll down a little bit, the sample information and the index are populated. Now you can save the run, and the run should be shown ready for sequencing. The second option to create the run that you can manually set up the run. All the asterisk field here will be required. For example, run name, library prep kit, read types, and sample information. You will select the library prep kit drop-down menu, and this will determine which indexes are available for your kit. You also have the option for custom if you are not using Illumina prep kit, and we will talk about that in the next few slides. Let's take a look at the manual run setup here. I'm gonna select create run, generate FASTA queue, and let's put the run name. For example, run setup. And I'm gonna select the library prep kit, for example, NextSeq DNA. Now you can see there's an adapter trimming, there's a run information. I'm gonna put two example sample here. So for example, sample. And if there is any invalid character, it will arrow out. So here there's a space, which is invalid character. So we're gonna fix it. Now I'm gonna select the index information for that sample. Let's do the same for the sample 2. And you're gonna select the index information for that example, sample 2. Everything will be populated. You should be able to save the run or export sample sheet. Sometimes if you have the duplicate in the index information, local run manager will flag it out and you will need to change the index information here. Now you should be able to save the run, and the run should be ready for sequencing. As mentioned earlier, if you are using custom kit, which is not Illumina prep kit, you will have the option to select custom in the drop-down menu in the library prep kit. So for the custom entry, you will need to manually add the index information because there's no option to select the drop-down menu for index. And it will allow for ATG, C, and AND. In this case, AND is used as a wildcard and is allowed in Local Run Manager version 2. I want to mention about AND wildcard here because the difference between Local Run Manager version 2 and base space. On base space, it's used BCL2 FASTA queue, and AND are not allowed because ANDs are treated literally, so AND will not work for base space, it will work for Local Run Manager. So just keep it in mind. If you set up the run in Local Run Manager, AND is allowed, but this run is uploaded to base space, which use BCL2 FASTA queue, and will not be allowed on base space. Another note here is that index 2 should always be entered in the forward orientation. And we have another slide to talk about the reason. You can also add the custom library prep kit in Local Run Manager if you use the kit all the times, and the custom kit will show in the drop-down option. To do that, you can go to Tools and select Library Prep Kit. And you have the option to download the template. Once you fill up the template with your index information or library prep kit, you will upload the template and then add the library prep kit into Local Run Manager. And that library prep kit will be available in the drop-down menu when you set up the run. There is a maximum of 100 library prep kits, so if you run out, you can remove the custom kit. So different modules will have more advanced settings. Previously, we have only adapter trimming, if you recall, for Generate FASTQ module. Other modules will have more advanced settings. For example, you have the option to select variant color or aligners or other different advanced module settings. This can be selected when you import sample sheets or manually set up. Some targeted assays that use the manifest, you also have the option to import the manifest. So you can import the manifest here, and the manifest should be available in the drop-down menu. If you have frequently used manifest, you can also add the manifest so that it will be available in the drop-down. And different modules have different analysis settings, so I recommend checking the module guide for the full available settings. Let's take a look at the advanced settings for example, DNA amplicon module. In this case, I'm going to import the sample sheet, DNA amplicon sample sheet here. And so everything will be populated based on the sample sheet, including the run information. And let's scroll down a little bit here. So you can see the DNA amplicon requires the manifest, so I'm going to import the manifest here. And now the manifest should be available, and we should be able to save the run. And the run should be shown ready for sequencing. So a quick note about saving the run when you complete the run setup. So when all the run information is valid, you can have the option to export the sample sheet. So you can either use it for requeuing or you can use it for off-instrument version. And once you click on Save the Run, it will return to the Run dashboard. When you return to the Run dashboard, the run will show ready for sequencing. The next step will be starting the instrument control software. So you will enter the local run manager user and password if you have user management turned on. And this is the example of the MiSeq instrument. Once you start the instrument control software, select local run manager, log in local run manager, you should be able to see the list of the run that you created in local run manager, and you should be able to select the run name. And you can follow the steps to load libraries and consumables, and you should be able to start the run. Now let's talk about local run manager of instrument version 2. So if you would like to perform off-instrument analysis, either you want to requeue the run or you want to reanalyze the run off-instrument, you can use our off-instrument version. To perform the off-instrument analysis, we will need to install the framework and the modules. So you can go to our support website and then download the off-instrument installer version 2. And then you make sure that you install the installer first. And installing local run manager of instrument does require full administrator access. In many more regulated environments, might not be able to install local run manager of instrument. So I recommend checking the software guide and also your IT team to make sure that you are able to install of instrument version. Once you download and install the platform, now we will need to download and install the analysis modules. If you need to install the reference genomes, you can download reference genome from our iGenome website for ready to use, or you can download the reference sequence from the public database. And local run manager version 2 does support the custom reference. If you are installing on the MiSeq instrument, you can use most of the MiSeq reporter genome. However, a quick note here. If you are using human genome, for example, HE19, we do have the HE19 with updated annotation file, which is comparable with some modules in local run manager. For example, DNA amplicon. So I would recommend download the updated version AG19 from our genome website. There is one step in local run manager of instrument and also on the instrument that I think it would become handy sometimes, that is importing the run. So when you want to reanalyze the existing run with different modules, for example, previously you set up the run as generate faster Q, now you want to reanalyze with DNA amplicon, you can use the import function. So first of all, you will create the new run, and the run should show ready for sequencing. Now, once you click on import option in the action menu, it will ask you to provide the run folder path or the existing sequencing run data. You can manually provide the run folder path here. However, the easiest way for me is going to the run folder where you want to import, and then you can copy that path and put into the run folder path here. So that is for the run input. Now, once you get that, the base output will appear to change where you want to save the output analysis. So this section is actually, this section will use the output settings from the run parameters.xml file in the run, or you can change it to the desired output location. So it can be local folder or it can be network locations. There are a few important notes when you set up the output in the network location regarding running local run manager as a services with the appropriate credentials that you will find in detail in our bulletin from support website. And that bulletin is how to connect benchtop instrument and local run manager to the network location. And analysis will start after importing the run. Okay, the next part I want to talk about is interaction with control software. That includes MiSeq, iSeq, NextSeq, and MiSeq. So let's talk about the options when you set up the run from the control software. There are a few options, depends on the instrument, but I want to talk about the common option first. So for the MiSeq, iSeq, NextSeq, and MiSeq instrument, the common option is using Local Run Manager version 2. So all of these 4 instruments has Local Run Manager mode that you can use to create the run in Local Run Manager, and you can select that run from the control software. And also you have the option to upload the run to BaseBase. So that will be BaseBase upload option, meaning you can select option run to upload to BaseBase for run monitoring only or run monitoring and storage. For the MiSeq instrument, there are another 2 modes when you set up the run, sample sheet mode and manual mode. For the sample sheet mode, this is similar to MiSeq control software version 2. It will, you will need to import the sample sheet, and this sample sheet will be validated by Local Run Manager. And you also have the option to upload to BaseBase for the full upload. The manual mode in MiSeq instrument, it will output the raw data only, so you don't need to provide the sample sheet. There is no secondary analysis. And for BaseBase uploading, there's only run monitoring option only. For other instruments, iSeq, NextSeq, and MiSeq, besides Local Run Manager mode, you have another option, is manual mode. So it will output raw data only. You can attach the sample sheet. However, this sample sheet will not be validated by Local Run Manager 2, version 2. The sample sheet will be copied directly to output or will be uploaded to BaseBase. And the difference between this manual mode in these instruments compared to the manual mode in MiSeq is that you have the BaseBase full data upload. So it can be run monitoring only, or it can be run monitoring and storage. So let's take a look at the MiSeq instrument here. So here you can see there are 3 modes for the MiSeq run setup. You have local run manager, sample sheet, and manual mode. So we're gonna select local run managers to set up the run using local run manager mode. Okay, let's take a quick look at the video demo here. So I'm gonna select local run manager. Here you can see you have the option to use BaseSpace, and you will need to log in into your BaseSpace account. You also have the option to use BaseSpace on-site. So, and then you can perform the next step. I'm gonna skip the BaseSpace here. So in this example, you can see there is a list of the run that I created in local run manager, and you also have the option to preview sample to make sure that you have correct index information. And once you select the run, you should be able to perform the next step. The second option is using sample sheet. So you create the run using a sample sheet. The sample sheet are sent to local run manager for validation, and it will create the run. Let's take a look at the sample sheet option here. So again, you also have the option to use BaseSpace. In this example, I'm gonna skip the BaseSpace option. You have the option to disable local run manager secondary analysis if you don't wanna perform it. And now we're gonna browse the sample sheet. For example, let's select the sample sheet here for NextSeq XD. And this sample sheet will be validated by local run manager. So if there is any error, it will flag out here. In this example, there is duplication in the index. So we have to change to the correct sample sheet here. Let's select the correct sample sheet here. All right. And local run manager will validate the sample sheet. Once it shows sample sheet is valid, you can see it here. We should be able to perform the next step to start the run. All right, so that was for the MiSeq instrument. Let's take a look at the iSeq instrument. So a little bit different from the iSeq instrument, that if you want to change from the manual mode to local run manager, or from local run manager to manual mode, then you can select the burger bar on the top left of the iSeq control software. Okay, let's take a quick look at how you set up the run using local run manager on the iSeq. So you're gonna click on sequence, you load the cartridge, and now the run list should show up in the control software that you already created in local run manager. You can also have the option to edit the run information. And you should be able to start the run from here. Okay, and the last one is the NextSeq instrument, but it will be similar to the MiSeq. Once you click on sequence here, you see there are 2 options, manual mode and local run manager mode. You also have the option to use BaseSpace as run monitoring and storage, or run monitoring only. Now let's click on next. You should be able to see the run list, and you should be able to select the run that you created in local run manager. You have the option to edit, and you can also edit the output folder here. Just make sure everything is correct, and then you should be able to save and then perform the next step to start the run. Okay, so that was how you interact with instrument control software to set up the run using local run manager. Now, in this slide, we talk a little bit about that a few times, but I want to talk in details here for the guide to the second index orientation. So as you might know that on the MiSeq, NextSeq instrument and the MiSeq instrument, the second index, which is I5, is read in the reverse complement orientation compared to the MiSeq instrument. So the question here is, when should you enter the forward or reverse complement of the I5 sequence? If you are using local run manager mode, always use the forward orientation for the I5. And the reason for that, because if you are using IEM to create the sample sheet for local run manager, IEM already reverse complement I5 for the MiSeq, NextSeq, MiSeq instrument. So if you're using IEM, just always select the MiSeq as instrument so that we can keep the I5 sequence in the forward orientation. And Local Run Manager will automatically reverse complement I5 to the correct orientation in the final step. That was for the Local Run Manager mode. If you are using manual mode, the I5 should be in the reverse complement. So sample sheet attached in manual mode are passed directly to the FastQ generation software without any further processing. So in this case, I5 is in the reverse complement orientation. So Local Run Manager always in the forward orientation. Manual mode, I5 is in the reverse complement orientation. All right, now after the sequencing run completed, we are going to talk about the analysis results in Local Run Manager. The analysis begins after the sequencing completed, and detailed steps of the analysis depends on the module. For example, here I'm talking about the sequencing analysis workflow. After the sequencing completed, the next step will be demultiplexing to generate FastQ files, and then alignment to the reference genome, and finally the variant coding. So once the analysis completed, Local Run Manager will show analysis completed, and you can select that completed run from the run dashboard. Once you click on that completed analysis, there are 3 different tabs: Run Overview, Sequencing Information, Sample and Results. The Run Overview tab will list information about the run, a summary of the sequencing metrics, and the location of the run folder. The Sequencing Information tab will provide the summary of the sequencing parameters, the module version. And the Sample and Result tab will provide a summary of the analysis results for each sample listed in the Sample tab, the location of the analysis folder, and also the option to requeue the analysis. To locate the analysis output, the easier way to check output in the Run Overview and copy the output path, Local Run Manager will be collected. The output files will be collected in one folder. It's called alignment imported number. It can be number 1 or number 2, depends on how many times you requeue the analysis. So for MiSeq Reporter, the output folder location is slightly different. The output is actually in the different level. For example, in the MiSeq instrument on MiSeq with MiSeq Reporter, it will be in data intensities, base code. But from Local Run Manager, the output of the analysis will be in the top level of the run folder, where you can find alignment underscore imported number. Another option that I want to mention, because again, we might use it a lot here, is requeuing analysis or reanalyzing existing one. So you can requeue the analysis if you want to reanalyze the run with different settings. For example, if you use incorrect index for the previous run, you can requeue it with the different or correct index information. So you have the option to click on the action menu and then select requeue, and you should be able to edit the run. To reanalyzing the existing run, you have the option to edit or import. So you can edit to change the run or sample settings, or you can import the run to reanalyze existing run. So this import function is applied when you want to change the analysis workflow. For example, previously you used generate FastQ, now you want to reanalyze with DNA amplicon. So you can edit the current run and import for the previous runs. The last part I want to talk about is the system settings in Local Run Manager. So you can access the system settings from the tools drop-down menu in the dashboard and then select the system settings. The security settings is available if you have user management turned on. This option allows us to change the password, expiration, user logout, or auto logout. System maintenance includes automatic cleanup of inactive run photos and also database backup. The database backup is not for the run data or base code file. Instead, it will be information about the run users and custom settings. The service account tab settings in Local Run Manager will set what account is running Local Run Manager. So this is important when you want to write the output to the network location. By default, Local Run Manager is running as local system. So this is good for running locally and write locally to the instrument. But if you run the Local Run Manager and write to the output network location, the service account running Local Run Manager and most of the network does not allow for local system to read and write to the network account. So if you see something like raw data is copied to the network location, but there's no FastSecure file, usually it's because the service account running Local Run Manager has not been set to the credential account, so it required the appropriate read and write access to the network location. So we do have the information about how to connect your instrument and Local Run Manager to a network location and user accounts. And you will be able to find it in our technical bulletin. But general idea here, if you need to set the window account for Local Run Manager, you will need to use appropriate credential account. The system configuration tab will allow you to set the reference genome repository, so you can change this default path to the genomes. The default will be C Illumina genomes, but you can change it. And the custom genomes are supported in Local Run Manager version 2. Finally, let's talk about Audit Trails. So Audit Trails records information about specific actions such as user access, user profile changes, and changes to the system, runs, and analysis parameters. So you have the option to filter the audit trail, or you have the option to export the audit trails. So this can be very useful for more regulated environment. All right, so that's all I have today for Local Run Manager version 2. And I want to introduce our Local Run Manager version 3 webinar coming in February 11. And this will be available with MiSeq Control Software version 4. So this is exciting, and they will have a few changes with Local Run Manager version 4 in version 3. In MiSeq Control Software version 4. So please register if you're interested. And I want to include it here some resources if you want to check after the webinar, and hopefully it will be helpful. And again, with that, I'm open for any questions for today's webinar. And thank you so much for joining our webinar again today.